Let's make a Pottery Barn dupe. Hi, and welcome back to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and today I am making a dupe from Pottery Barn for Halloween. Now, this hanging set of two that we are about to make today go for $99 usually, and on sale they are $79. Now, I ordered enough material to make 4 of them for $54. So per item, they come out to about $13.50. But if you made 2 of them, it would be about $27, which is a fraction of the cost. And with the material that I bought, I could make the bigger ones or the standing ones. I just decided to make these hanging ones. I thought they would be the easiest ones to do, and this was something new that I was trying out, so I wanted to see. Now, they are a little bit different in terms of material. This one is a cheesecloth material, and I think theirs is a little thicker. But what I didn't do was I didn't spray this with any sort of setting spray, and I will link below some of the fabric stiffeners if you wanted to add that to like the hat or even to your cheesecloth material just to make them stay out a little bit more. Is it necessary? Not really. I think if you made the standing ones, it would be a little bit better, but for these hanging ones, it worked just fine. I'm excited to do more stuff like this. I think it's a lot of fun, especially since we're saving money and making something that's really cute and also trending in terms of home decor. So let's get started on this.
So the first thing I needed to do was wrap this styrofoam ball that I bought. Now, I didn't look if they had black styrofoam balls. They might, but because of the cheesecloth having the holes, you can see the white through it. So I wrapped it in the burlap that I bought and it worked perfectly. So you don't need a ton of it. It can kind of leave an opening at the bottom too. Don't worry about that. But as long as you have the top covered that would be shown through the cheesecloth, you'll be covered. So I did test this out before I did my tutorial to make sure that I was able to do it. And I love the way that it came out. Really, the only thing that I'm missing is that stiffening spray. And maybe I'll go buy some and try it out and then post a, follow-up with it. But right now, I think it looks just fine without it. So I'm just using some hot glue, and I used hot glue for everything in this. You can also use a fabric glue if you prefer, but hot glue dries really quickly, so I went with hot glue. And I'm just placing that burlap all over. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of see that it has flaps open. Again, I just went through with my hot glue gun and closed those up so that most of my styrofoam ball was covered. Now, I did a 4-inch styrofoam ball. Again, I'm only making those hanging ones. And you'll see in the pictures on the website, if you make the standing ones, what I would do is just use a Dollar Tree broomstick, and I would get a bigger styrofoam ball. So now that might cost you a little bit more, but you could also just wrap more burlap around a little styrofoam ball to make it a little thicker. So there are definitely ways to do it. You could also use plastic bags up in it to make it fluffy. Instead of even using styrofoam, you just use plastic bags covered in some sort of fabric. All right, so I am covering up my styrofoam ball. You could also paint this if you prefer. Truly, it's up to you on however you want to make this a dark color. And now that I have it covered, I'm going to grab my cheesecloth. Now, I only used 2 layers of cheesecloth. I guess technically it's 4 because I fold it over, but these you get a lot of them. And again, like I said, you can make up to 4 of these hanging ones. For the longer ones, you would definitely need more of it. So you probably only get to make 1 out of it, or maybe 2. But I am unfolding this completely. It does make kind of a bigger rectangle. So you definitely want to unfold it all the way. And then what we're going to do is fold it in half long ways. And that's going to kind of give us a double layer to make it a little bit thicker and less see-through. So you're going to take your time to unfold these. And you're going to need 2 of them if you're using the ones that I purchased on Amazon. So I am folding these over, and then I'm lining up the bottoms, and I'm going to lay it down onto my table. So now I have it laying down, and I am going to grab another one of these cheesecloth, and I'm going to lay it the opposite way. So it kind of makes a plus sign going across. And again, I'm unfolding it completely and then folding it in half long way so it's doubled over, and then I'm going to make the cross. So now I am grabbing my styrofoam ball, and you see that the white part is facing up, and that's going to be the bottom of our witch's head. And I'm just folding this over, and I'm going to grab it from the other side. That's the top. And now we have basically the body of our witch done. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my black twine. You can also use like a black ribbon, really whatever you want to do. And I zoomed in on the Pottery Barn one, and they do kind of leave it where it's almost like a bow. So if she's like wearing like a cape. But I just cut mine off and tied it. And you can leave this a little bit looser. I tied this one a little bit tighter than my first one, but you can leave it a little bit looser if you want to. Totally up to you, because we're going to put a piece of cardboard underneath to kind of make it spread out a little bit more. So up to you on how you want to leave this in terms of how tight, but you're just going to tie around the neck, I guess I'll say that in quotes, of the witch. So now I'm going to spread open the bottom so that we can start attaching our lights into it. So I bought a 5-pack of fairy lights, and they were really quite reasonably priced. And now I'm going to grab my cardboard. This is just leftover cardboard. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing super thick. I'm using regular scissors to cut through it. And I'm just going to cut about a 12-inch strip and then cut this in half. And that should be plenty wide to put down the middle. So I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to make a cross, like a plus sign, just like we did for the cheesecloth. And I'm going to hot glue those together. But just like with our styrofoam balls, this is white and yours might be brown. It might be a different color. So we have to cover it up with that black burlap. So I just have some left over, and I'm going to cut them into strips and cover it with some hot glue so that it is black. So when you go and you put it into your witch, it is not seen through that cheesecloth. So just keep that in mind, that if anything is light colored, it is going to show through this specific cheesecloth. And like I mentioned, I think Pottery Barn used some sort of other cheesecloth that was like maybe a little tighter, or even they use like a tulle instead. So you can use whatever fabric you want for this. Obviously, I went with this cheesecloth. It was like the most budget friendly. It's very Halloween-esque. So now I am just putting some hot glue onto where that burlap is. You want that to face outward, so make sure you put the right side up. And I am hot gluing it on to my witch. And this should be perfectly centered into where that head is. So I'm just gluing it right onto the cheesecloth. And once it's dry, I went ahead and I started to bend out that cardboard just a little bit, so it was a little more rounded and not so sharp. And that's just kind of a preference here. You can also make a round disc instead of doing a plus sign if you want it to be a little rounder. Now I'm grabbing my fairy lights, and make sure you're putting the part where the batteries are, and you can slide them in and out so you can still get into it. It's just a little bit easier. And again, I'm using hot glue to attach this right on to that cardboard. Now the fairy lights that I'm using are like a wire, so you can kind of play with them a little bit and move them around. And so right now they're just coiled up, so you will have to uncoil them to get the full effect of all the lights. So put this in and allow it to dry. So for the hat, I bought far too much burlap because I'm not a fabric girly, so I didn't know how we buy things like this. So I have a lot of burlap left over. So if you have any ideas on what to make, please let me know. But I'm going to cut about a 12 by 12 square for both the bottom and the top. And they made these hats like ridiculously tall on the Pottery Barn one, so that's what I did. And so make sure that your base of your hat is bigger than your styrofoam ball. And I eyeballed this, so if you are very particular with how your fabric comes out, please make a little pattern, because I am just eyeballing it. It was like not the biggest deal to me if it was perfectly round. So I am just cutting this. I folded it into 4s, and then I just cut it with a pair of scissors. They're not even fabric scissors. So whatever is best for you to make it perfect. I know some people are really particular about this. I am learning in my older age that I am a type B type of girly and just go with the flow here. So mine's a little more rounded squoval, square squoval, than it is a circle. And now for the hat, you're going to roll this up. And don't worry if the top has like a little bit of a hole sticking out, because we're going to add thread to it. But I rolled mine up into like a very tall cone, and I hot glued it, and then I cut it, because I felt like this was probably just the easiest way to do it, rather than try to cut it and then attach it and then it might not work. So I just rolled mine up into a nice little cone to see if I liked the size. And then I went ahead and I grabbed my hot glue. I did a little strip from like kind of near the corner down, And then I rolled in that other corner to make that cone. And this worked so easy for me. I thought it was great. And then once it was dry, which is so quick with the hot glue, I went ahead with my scissors and I cut off all of the excess fabric. So I went pretty close to where that hot glue was, cut right down. And then when I got to the base of the cone, which we were going to attach to the hat, I just cut straight across so that it was even. So I made a quick little witch's hat, nothing too crazy. Now from here, I kind of leave it up to you, just like I leave everything up to you, but I went in with hot glue around the base of this cone and then just stuck it on to the base of my square hat. But you can definitely sew it on if you have sewing skills. I do not, hence why I bought 10,000 yards of burlap for a very reasonable price. So I'm going around with my hot glue here and we're just going to stick it right into the center of our hat. I just kind of find it funny that my hat is definitely more of a square or an oval than a circle, but that's okay. That's okay. It's DIY'd. I like that. So I am pressing it down and the hot glue actually worked pretty well with this burlap. And if you want to, you can always take some of that twine and also go around the base of the cone to cover up any hot glue that you might see. Once you have this on, you can grab your little twine and you don't need a ton, just enough to hang. And I am going to tie a little bow into mine and then we're going to attach it into the hole that is in the cone. And again, I'm just using hot glue here to attach, so I didn't really need much in terms of adhesive for this. So a little bit of hot glue and then just attach in your hanging thread. So our last piece is just to attach our hat onto our head. And again, I'm going to use hot glue to do that. You can kind of lean it back if you want to from the head, or you can put it straight on top. It's up to you on how, flappy you made the hat. But again, if you use that stiffening spray, your hat should stay a little bit more straight than mine. Mine's a little bit flappy. And now I'm gluing it down and I'm going to allow that to dry. And now you can go in and you can play around with those fairy lights and untwist them and kind of place them around inside your cheesecloth body. Here is my final witch. I have them on. I know it's the middle of the day, so I apologize, but I think it's pretty good for my first time doing a dupe. It saves us a bunch of money, and hanging up, they're going to look super cute for Halloween. Thank you for joining me as we made our little hanging witch. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please leave me a comment below and maybe give me some more ideas on other dupes you'd want to see made. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It helps me so much. Subscribe to my channel for new crafty videos and share this with one of your friends who wants to save some money and still make some really cute Halloween decor. I will see you soon in my craft room and stay crafty.